HaShana Tova, I get a lot of requests. Everyone expects you to answer all the requests. Good luck with that. And a number of people in the past couple of weeks have said, Rabbi, will you talk about anti-Semitism again? Because it's so prolific in our nation and in the world. And I heard that. But I really, really love the Torah portion we just read, which was about creation. So we'll see if we can combine those two. We just read about creation. There's a key phrase in what we just read. It says, before there was creation, there was tohu vevohu. Chaos and confusion. Sound like the world of today? And out of this tohu vavohu, this chaos and confusion, creation happens. The transcendence of those two, as they are integrated, ends up being the creation of something new. And let's be clear, our Gemara teaches us this is not the first universe God created. He made some and destroyed some. He didn't like where they're going. But he made this one out of tohu vavohu, chaos and confusion. Now, since there's no word in Torah that shouldn't be there, why not just say chaos? Why not just say confusion? Why not just say a problem? So we need to understand these two terms. They are reflections of each other, and they're important teachings. Chaos is what happens outside of us. Okay? Chaos is what happens outside of us. Oftentimes, the result inside of us is confusion. So it's chaotic, the world's upside down, things seem like they make no sense, and it seems so bizarre, we just sort of accept it and we become confused. Sound familiar in society? Right? Up is down, down is up, right is left. So I was really thinking about this and doing some studying and about chaos and confusion. Chaos externally, confusion internally, how we make that shift so we're not confused anymore, we can create. And I found a sacred text, it's a couple hundred years old. And I found, it's great, because it's actually been translated in English, so you can buy your own copy on Amazon. But it really talks about chaos and confusion. You may have heard of it. It's called The Ugly Duckling. Oh, you studied it. For those of you who aren't so familiar with the story, The Ugly Duckling is a story about a bird that grows up and is rejected because it is ugly. It is told it is ugly. It is told it is wrong. As all the other ducks, they make fun of it because it is different than them. Ultimately, this duckling finds out he's not even a duckling, is he? He's a swan. And he realizes that with the help of other swans who recognize him, say, you're not a duckling, you belong with us. His confusion is only caused by the chaos around him of everyone saying you're an ugly duckling as opposed to saying you're a beautiful swan. And this, in many ways, is the essence of anti-Semitism. Let me explain what I mean by that. In 1961, Adolf Eichmann went to trial in Israel. Now, Israel wanted to make sure that it was a show trial. They wanted to make sure that everything was above board. Everyone knew everything was above board. And so they asked Eichmann, what attorney would you like? And he brought a man named Savatius. Now, Savatius was arguably the greatest legal mind of the 20th century. And so they hired Savatius. The Israeli government paid for this, and you can look at the transcripts. And he hired Savatius. Now, Savatius was going to have to defend Eichmann, but how do you do that? There's no question Eichmann really did these horrible things. There's no question that Eichmann caused these things. He can't plead ignorance. So Savatius, who was so brilliant, came up with a brilliant defense. He brought us in as an expert witness, a man named Professor Salo Baron. Professor Baron was considered the greatest Jewish mind in terms of culture and history in the 20th century in the world. Apparently he spoke 15 languages and had 6 or 7 doctorates. So he is the expert on Judaism. And Sabbatius calls him in and he testifies. And again, you can read this in the transcripts are online. And so they're translated, thank God. So Sabbatius says to Professor Barone, he says, you know, Professor, what was life like for the Jews in 2nd century Rome? And Barone explained to him how we were persecuted, killed. And he said, well, what was life like during the 15th century Spain? And he talked, and Barone told him about the expulsion from Spain. And it went on, you know, the Inquisition and 18th and 19th century Russia and the pogroms. And so Sabbatius' defense was, well, so really Eichmann didn't do anything that anyone else wasn't already doing. He was merely continuing the practice. But then he tripped himself up. He said, Professor, why do you think that is the practice? And Barone said 4 words. Dislike of the unlike. Dislike of the unlike. Even in the animal kingdoms, as we know from Ugly Duckling, there is a prejudice against that which is unlike others. And Barone's comment is that anti-Semitism exists because we are unlike. Isn't that interesting? And we're so unlike that around us, that dislike has caused chaos. And then we get confused. We buy into their anti-Semitic, vitriolic hatred. And we start believing maybe they're right. Maybe we shouldn't believe in God. Maybe we shouldn't have Jewish practices. Maybe we should just be all secularized. Our religion should become politics. Our religion should be a social activist cause. Our religion should be whatever else, rather than the faith of our ancestors. And that's when these anti-Semites win. When our own people decide to be so confused they believe the chaos. There was a philosopher named Maybaum. In the 1960s, he wrote that we should add a 614th commandment to the 613 of the Torah. He said the 614th commandment should be, thou shalt not give Adolf Hitler a posthumous victory. And that's what we do when we allow ourselves to become totally secularized. We buy into the confusion that is caused by the chaos because we are unlike and therefore we are disliked. Is everyone following that? Does that make sense to everyone? But there's a whole flip side because we already learned in the Torah, tohu vavohu, chaos and confusion. They make creation, right? So how do we do that? We embrace where we are unlike. We recognize how we are unlike and we embrace it. So how are we unlike? How are the Jewish people, the Jewish individuals, each of us, how are we unlike others? Well, one way is that we are about questions, not answers. Other traditions, other cultures, other faiths, they provide the answer. This is the path. In Judaism, we say Elu ve'elu. These words are both words of the living God. It is through the dialogue, what we call machlokas, through the dialogue and the debate that we actually understand things. Since God is infinite, one person can't have a unilateral monopoly on how God should be understood or interpreted. And so we recognize the only way to start to understand that which is infinite is to have debate, to have dialogue. And so we debate with each other, don't we? About the most ridiculous things. Forget about how many angels can fit on the head of a pin. We get in passionate discussions about, should your matzo ball be a floater or a sinker? Should your latke be thin or thick? And we'll argue about it. Forget about politics. I want my floater. You know, I remember when I was professor at Loyola Marymount, the other rabbi on campus, Rabbi Arthur Rosh, a wonderful man, he's actually a witness on my ketubah, we love him very much. Arthur was the other rabbi on campus. We would constantly be arguing with each other about what was best for the Jewish kids, how we should do ceremonies, rituals, practices, etc. And we were very close, obviously. I used to stay at my house 2 nights a week because I lived in Santa Barbara. And as I say is when you saw ketubah. And our priest friends did not understand. I swear to you, they just did not understand. He and I are arguing, and in their world, if you argue with someone, you are their enemy. In our world, it bonds us together. They literally could not get it. Because for them, it's an answer. For us, it's a dialogue. It's a journey, not a destination. So one of the ways we are unlike is that we are about questions more than answers. What's another way that we're unlike? We are obligated to fix things that go wrong. You can step on my toe. I may not say anything. But you step on Eric's toe. I'm going to say something, right? We're obligated to fix things. The Gemara teaches us if you see a crime being committed across the river and you do nothing to prevent it, you're actually guilty of the crime. So, whereas in other cultures, other traditions, something's going on over here, doesn't affect me directly, I'm not paying attention, I can't see it, right? In Judaism, it's the exact opposite, and that sometimes is very, very challenging. When you do what you know is right or what you believe is right, but because that's unlike what other people are doing, there is dislike and even hatred, as some of you know. We've gotten death threats, hate mail. My house has been vandalized now twice for standing up and saying we're Jewish. And you know what? We will keep standing up for that. Because I don't care if the anti-Semite is on the political left, on the political right. I don't care if they are Muslim, Somali, Christian, or even a Jew. I am not about to let an anti-Semite dictate who we are. Not now and not ever. So we fix things that are wrong. We fix it with passion. We really fix it. Let me give you a story. See, you knew you were going to get a pathetic story. You knew you couldn't walk out. I don't know what sounds. So there's a great story about fixing something. There was a Rabbi Joel Sirkis, who was called the Bach. He lived in the 17th century. He's a very famous Kabbalist and commentator. He actually wrote the first commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. One of those great rabbis, one of the great luminaries. And had such a relationship with God, he said to God, God, will you tell me who it is that will be my neighbor in the Olam Haba? Who's going to be my neighbor in heaven? I want to make sure I'm in a good neighborhood. I'm in the right neighborhood. I don't want to be in the wrong neighborhood. So I want to know who my neighbor is. So he hears a Bach Kol, a heavenly voice that says, Reb Moshe of Lemberg. And so he goes to Lemberg, and he finds out about Reb Moshe. Now, Reb Moshe is a pretty wealthy man. Nice guy. Gives a little bit of charity. But that's about it. And so the Bach says to himself, and he says to God, and he writes all this, and he says, effectively he says, you know, who is this guy to be sitting next to me? He doesn't pray, he doesn't study, he doesn't know Kabbalah, he doesn't meditate. Who the heck is he that he should have the privilege that he's going to be next to me? But then he hears that Reb Moshe's son is going to be married the next day, and in those days, what would happen is when a wealthy person got married, they would invite all the poor people so the poor people could eat. So the Bach, this great rabbi, dresses up incognito. He dresses up like a poor person, and he's following in the throng of poor people that are following Reb Moshe to his son's wedding that evening, when there is this wailing, this crying coming from the alley. Moshe stops them, and he walks over to the alley where there's a young man. The young man is sobbing. He says, young man, he was obviously poor. He says, what can I do? Why are you sobbing? How can I help? And the young man says, Reb Moshe, I hate to say this to you. You knew my father, Yankala, until he died. You know, he was wealthy, and then a few years back he died, and I'm an orphan, and we have nothing. But when he was still wealthy at 4 years old, I was betrothed to the woman that your son is supposed to marry tonight. I love her. She loves me. We lived and we laughed and we loved and we played together. And she's my bashert, she's my soul's mate. And she's marrying your son, and that is why I'm wailing. Reb Moshe has someone go and get the bride and have her come back, and he says, tell me, is this true? She goes, yes, sir, it is. I was engaged to this man from the time we were little children, and we love each other so, so much. It is everything in our souls. We belong together. But my parents wanted me marrying into a money family, and he lost all the money, and so that's honestly, I mean, I like your son. He's not a bad guy, but that's why I'm marrying him. Moshe then gets his son to come out. He says, tell me about your bride. Be honest. He goes, Dad, I'm going to be honest. She's nice. She's pretty eyes. She's pretty. She's intelligent. I like her as a friend. My soul does not sing for her. I'm sure she'll be a good mother to your grandchildren. She's very kind. But she's not the other whole to my whole. She's not the other partner in my soul. I gotta be honest, Dad. But trust me, she's gonna be a fabulous mom, fabulous wife. She's gonna be a terrific mother for your grandchildren. And so Moshe calls the three of them together now, because he sees it's a wrong that needs to be fixed. And despite how difficult it is, he says to his son, I want you to take off the clothes of the groom, and I want you to switch clothes with this young man, because he needs to marry this girl. I understand that her family wants certain things, and so, young man, you are an orphan. I am adopting you. You will be as a stepson to me. And we'll find the right one for you, he says to his other son. And that's exactly what happens. And they go to the wedding. And the Bach writes that never in his life, in the many weddings he officiated, all the weddings he'd been to, never in his life had he seen a father dance with such joy as Moshe did for this stepson's that he adopted wedding. And then the Bach continues, he says, when I went to Lemberg, I wondered, why should this man have the benefit, the privilege of being next to me in Gan Eden, in heaven? As I am leaving, my question is, why should I have the privilege? What have I ever done to have the privilege of being with him? He fixed it. That's what Jews do. We fix things. We are to be a light unto the nations. We are to fix the world. And we do it fully. And we do it with passion in every way. So, we look at questions rather than answers, and we fix wrongs. What else makes us different? What makes us different and unlike is that we do it passionately. We are like King David. We are passionately giving. All the time we are passionate. We give of ourselves 110%. Remember, King David dances into Jerusalem so joyously. That's who we are. We don't give kind of. We give fully, don't we? Ask any son of a Jewish mother or grandmother. They give so fully, we wish sometimes they'd stop giving. And remember, floaters. So, lots of also floaters. So, we are committed to giving fully. A story, parable. A rabbi had three sons. And these three brothers were very close, and they got together as adults, and they said, you know what, we're going to each go off into the world and find the most unique item that we can, and in 10 years we'll come back together and share those items. The first brother goes off to the west, where he finds, in a bazaar, he finds this mirror with which he can see hundreds and hundreds of miles clearly. He says that's what he'll take. The second brother, he goes to the east, and in a carpet market, he sees a stack of rugs, but one of them is fluttering underneath. Finds out that that's a magic carpet. He buys that. The third brother is walking through the forest when suddenly he sees this tree with hundreds and hundreds of red orange flowers. It is a pomegranate tree. God bless you. It is a pomegranate tree, but there is only one perfect pomegranate just sitting there. And he goes underneath it, and the pomegranate drops into his hand. He looks back up, and it's been replaced with another pomegranate. This must be a magic tree. He looks around to see if there are any other pomegranate trees like it, and then when he looks back, the tree has disappeared. And so he believes this is a magic pomegranate tree. They get together at the end of 10 years, and they say, look what we got. We got this mirror, we got this carpet, we got this magic pomegranate. And they look in the mirror, and they see that there is a kingdom hundreds of miles away where the princess is dying. And the king has said whoever can save her will become the prince and ultimately the king of this realm. And so they take the magic carpet, they fly the hundreds of miles, and they get there. And then the brother with the pomegranate goes to her, cuts it open, and gives her the seeds, and she's miraculously healed. Oh. I love stories like that. But now we got a problem, because who should become king? Who should become the prince? The king says, I don't know what to do. He says to the guy with the mirror, if you hadn't have the mirror, we wouldn't know where you're going. He goes to the guy with the carpet. He says, if you hadn't a flying carpet, we wouldn't know. We would have been able to be here. And if you hadn't done the pomegranate, she wouldn't be healed. So I'm going to leave it up to my daughter. The smart thing to do. And so they go to the princess. And the princess goes to the son with the mirror. And she says, does your mirror still work? He goes, absolutely. What would you like to see? She goes to the son with the carpet. She says, does your carpet still fly? He goes, absolutely. Where can I take you? She goes to the son with the pomegranate. She says, do you still have your pomegranate? He goes, no, I gave it all to you, and there's not another one. She goes, this is the one I will marry because he knew how to give everything. That is our job, to give everything. All of who we are. We don't enter relationships kind of half-baked, do we? So, we look at the world as questions, not answers. Dialogue is so important. To fix the world with passion, to really give every piece of passion that we have in every moment. These are ways, as the Jewish people, we are unlike anybody else, aren't we? So how about if instead of rejecting those things where we are unlike, we embrace them. And maybe, in embracing them, we will stop being confused and we can create something new. But that's hard, because we can get angry or sad, depressed. But Rabbi Nachman of Breslov gives us the answer for that too, which is the other quality of Judaism which makes us unlike all others. A moment. Rabbi Nachman teaches that if you are sad, if you are angry, if you are frustrated, be fully passionately present in one moment. And that one moment will hold you for the day, the week, the month, the year, and your lifetime. One moment fully present and passionate is a touchstone for our entire lives. Every one of us in here has dreams, thoughts, ideals, and ideas. We all have the heroes that we want to be or see. Rabbi Zalman Shlomo used to say, we are all the actors, writers, directors, and producers of our own film. And we get to determine, are we heroes or victims? And when we are sad, when we're depressed, that's being a victim. And Rabbi Nachman teaches us that, in fact, if we are present for one moment only, just one moment, everything changes. This moment right now has never existed before. It will never exist again. And he teaches us, think what can be attained by being in this moment now. And see, that's the essence of Rosh HaShana, the essence of Judaism, and the essence of taking chaos and confusion and making it into creation. And that's what Rosh Hashanah is asking every one of us to do. To take this moment, to embrace who we want to be in the world for this moment, and everything will change. With all of our passion, with all of our willingness to have dialogue, with all of who we are, to make one moment the moment. And that too is the great Jewish teaching. It makes us unlike, but allows us to create. And so my prayer for all of us as we enter into this new year is to take a Rosh Hashanah and be here in this moment, right now. To embrace those dreams you're even embarrassed about embracing because you think, oh, I can't do that. But rather for all of us to embrace those dreams. And any dream you have that you haven't accomplished, God planted in your heart. There's a reason you have it. And so to be fully present in embracing that, so that we are no longer like ducklings or like swans, thinking we're ducklings, acting like we're ducklings, but rather as a community, we recognize that all of us in this room and throughout the world, all of us are actually swans. We are eagles. We are the change the moment we allow ourselves to be present in that moment. And my prayer for all of us in this Rosh HaShana is that we embrace this moment now. We embrace it with all of our passion, all of our openness, all of our vulnerability, all of what is inside our souls and hearts. And we fully embrace it as we open our book of life. This is my prayer in this Shana Tovah. This is my prayer for all of us. So that we can let go of what we have been to become what we are meant to be. We all be in this moment of Rosh Hashanah. Thank you for being kind and allowing me to be here. Gemar Chatama Tovah. May we all be blessed and sealed in the book of life. This is the moment, this is the day, when I send all my doubts and demons on their way. Every endeavor I have made ever is coming into play. Is here and now today. This is the moment. This is the time when the momentum and the moment are in rhyme. Give me this moment, this precious chance. I'll gather up my past and make some sense at last. This is the moment when all I've done, all of the dreaming, scheming and screaming become one. This is the day. Sparkle and shine when all I've lived for becomes mine. For all these years I faced the world alone, and now the time has come to prove to them I made it on my own. This is the moment, the sweetest moment. Destiny beckoned, I never reckoned second best. I won't look down, I must not fall. This is the moment, the final moment of them all. Moment for moment, this is the moment, the greatest moment.